some people asking some questions about the left tackle position that JG out of nowhere. I asked him, I just thought I'd get, move the chains on the tackle situation.
Oh, that was you? You asked that?
Yeah.
Nice.
I asked the hard-hitting questions. That's right. And he gave us quite a nugget as far as who's going to be starting at the left tackle position and here on forward for this Cardinals organization. You want me to tell you? I wasn't going to
clip. I think we have the clip.
You want to see the clip? All right, here's JG answering about the left tackle spot.
Jonah's going to go right, Paris is going to go left, and then we'll see how that looks.
It's a big nugget. One of the most impactful decisions of the offseason. This podcast told you back in February, we were told that the plan initially was to keep Paris at right tackle. So I'll own that. I'll eat that, right? But I think plans changed. Who was available in free agency? Their initial plan was to sign a high-price guard. That changed. DJ Humphrey's injury obviously complicated things at the end of the season. And I also think, I was texted this today, they played in a sandbox for a brief period where it felt like their pick was going to be a left tackle, one of the top left tackles in the draft. And guess what? 3 quarterbacks go ahead of you, and you have to pivot off said plan to take a generational wide receiver. So then, hey, Paris, you think you can move to left tackle? Hey, Jonah Williams, would you be open to playing right tackle? I truly believe that was what ended up happening. Joe Alt was in strong consideration by this team as a contingency plan if Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't there, or potentially a trade down scenario presented themselves where they would take. Remember how many tackles went in the top 15? Damn near like 5 to 7. Yeah. They were primed to take a tackle if Marvin was not available to them. So Marvin was. So I do believe it made their plans a little bit more, I don't know, non-concrete when it comes to Paris. So, I mean, we can break down what it means for Paris and Jonah Williams, and it will. But anybody who doesn't think like this situation was incredibly fluid, it's been fluid for 3+ months in Arizona. They didn't have a set decision made up until recently, we're told.
Yeah, as far as Jonah Williams, coming over on the 2-year deal, and, I was talking to Donnie Druin, and he pointed out that, Jonah had initially requested a trade from Cincinnati when he was switched over to the right side, but then kind of he thought about it and he talked to his representation, and he pulled back the trade request, and he was stoked to take over the right tackle spot. He embraced it, and then he went out in free agency and got himself a pretty good deal. And I got to imagine he had a pretty good idea. He could be staying at the right tackle position. I mean, if you look at, what the Arizona Cardinals have invested in Paris Johnson Jr., right? Yeah. That they're willing to take him at 3. They maneuver the draft board, trade back to 12, then back up to 6, and then select him 6th overall. I think that in itself is enough of an investment that's worthy of popping him over to the left side. And look, year 2, Paris Johnson Jr., franchise left tackle, sounds pretty good to me. That he's gonna be the protector of Kyler Murray's blind side from here on forward. There's no more waiting on it. Like I could get on board with the idea that he's gonna stick at right tackle and become the Cardinals version of Lane Johnson, and that he was just gonna be a bookend to a future left tackle. But Paris being that guy and the leadership qualities he has, and the fact he didn't miss a snap last season, you got to be pretty excited that Paris Johnson Jr. is going to be the guy going forward.
I mean, what did Paris tell us in the past? Studying Lane Johnson's footage, like that was his trajectory initially. Because I think the plan initially, I know it was DJ Humphreys going to play left tackle, or we're going to draft a left tackle. And guess what? They weren't able to do that because of how the draft board fell, the quality of players that were there. Darius Robinson falls to you. Marvin Harrison Jr. falls to you. You have to make those tough decisions. We had tipped off that Jonah Williams is going to become an Arizona Cardinal the morning of, and he has position versatility. And again, JG also said, like, at any point they could make a decision to tweak this. You hope that's not the case. You hope that this sticks. But, I mean, it's pretty good Monty Ossenford positional value in his first 3 picks that he drafts. He drafts a franchise left tackle, a generational wide receiver prospect, and then we're going to talk about Darius Robinson looking like a freight train from hell. He can play edge rusher. He can play D tackle. He was picked 27. I mean, the off-ball linebacker days of Steve Keim are long gone. The undersized wide receivers, non-premium positions are dead and buried for this franchise. And I'm fired up for Paris because, right tackles are getting paid. Panay Sewell got paid, but Paris has a chance to set himself up financially. There's a chance to set himself up amongst the best in the NFL. And to your point, I think to the only point that matters is is there anybody else on this roster you would trust more, even in his second season, to protect Kyler Murray's blind side against the fiercest defensive lineman in the NFL than Paris? I don't think so. Like we're going to talk about Michael Wilson and the jump this year. I don't think there's anybody we're projecting to have a bigger jump in year 2 than Paris Johnson Jr. Taking on the likes of Nick Bosa and company. Like he has to be good for you to be a contender in the NFC West. So makes all the sense in the world. And I trust the Cardinals were so well coached with their offensive line last year. How can you combat this? This isn't, Russ Grimm and company. They know what they're doing now up front. So they want to take him and play him at left tackle. I support that.
Russ Grimm, who would have some of the worst offensive lines in the league, and somehow get head coaching looks. You're like, what? This doesn't make sense.
We're just gonna sign Alan Faneca. He's 100 years old. Give him whatever he wants.
Right, but I mean, I think the DJ Humphries injury that Monty Ossenfort's on record saying it was just a brutal blow to the franchise, because not only did Monty but also JG and everybody in that locker room had so much respect for and fell in love with the player, and had expectations for him to hold down that left tackle spot at least for one more season.
Yeah.
But the injury just expedited Paris Johnson's move in this franchise, and to take over as that guy and to be Kyler's blindside protector. And you've seen it beyond the playing field. Like when you hear from Christian Jones, the first person he's greeted by in the facility is Paris Johnson Jr. saying, let's get this, let's get it, let's get after it. And I mean, that's leadership right there. And you hear like the comments from Yelda Frohlhold, or you hear the comments from his tag team duo on the right side, his rookie year, and Will Hernandez, basically saying like, we're going to miss him on that side, but he's going to hold it down. They have every bit of confidence that Paris Johnson Jr. is going to go over to that side, the left side that wasn't as secure as the right, and do the same thing and solidify it. And that's what you want to know going forward as any NFL franchise in the league from 1 to 32. They want to know who's starting and protecting their quarterback's blind side. And there's no more questions any longer, even though Jonathan Gannon said after he dropped that little nugget that he has veto power over this, but something drastic would have to happen, and Paris Johnson Jr. would, uncharacteristically be, not up to snuff for them to make that switch, the flip-flop Jonah Williams and Paris Johnson Jr.
Well, Andy asking in the chat, like, why move Paris to the left side? And again, I think it just comes down to they feel like it gives them the best chance to win, having Paris at left tackle and Jonah Williams at right tackle. Like, if they didn't believe that, they wouldn't be doing it. But, I mean, Jonah Williams is on a 2-year deal. You would assume he's going to be around both years pending a disaster, right? And then you also have Yelda Frohlhold, who I'm told is poised for a contract extension, Will Hernandez, who's been a seamless transition, and then you drafted a third-round guard. Like, you can see the projection of this offensive line 18 to 24 months in the making. They could always bring in new talent, but, like, they love to have, and so does most teams, the set 5 be the set 5 and not touch it, right? It's different than the defensive line rotation or what they want to do at receiver or even running back. It's like quarterback and offensive lineman don't touch it. We want to do it all 17 weeks exactly the same. And I think if you had asked me left to right, right now, Paris at left tackle. I think Evan Brown right now is going to start camp as the starting left guard. Then you've got Yelda Frohlhold, Will Hernandez, and Jonah Williams on the right-hand side. And then, of course, the only position that I truly believe is fluid, you would agree with this, is what's going on at left guard. And again, you put a rookie in Isaiah Adams at left guard between Paris Johnson Jr. and Yelda Frohlhold. A lot of people would believe two your best offensive linemen. It's a pretty soft landing spot. Whereas here's what I will contend. If you're planning to start Isaiah Adams, big jump from playing with the Illini to playing against the LA Rams defensive line. If you're going to ask him to do that, maybe you don't want Jonah Williams, who's also new to this regime and new to this scheme, to have to take him on, as a protege and a mentee-mentor relationship. Like, that might be too much to ask. So we're going to let Paris do that. And then on the flip side, Will can help Jonah Williams on the right-hand side learn the position and really the playbook for the first time. So there's a lot of interchangeable parts, but at the same time, you're leaning on the guys that did it at a high level last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Jonah Williams has an even better chance at acclimating to his new team, where he's not going to be tasked with being in pass pro as much as he was with Cincinnati.
No doubt.
This is, I think that's what helped Paris Johnson Jr. play so well on the right side, is him and Will Hernandez were that tag team duo that were just moving the people around in the run game. And then, you lean on Paris on the left side to keep Kyler Murray upright to make plays down the field with his arm. So I talk about Paris Johnson, or we're talking about PJJ and then also Will Hernandez and Yelda Froholt. And we got to talk to both of those guys. And the question of Paris came up a couple times. Damon, if we've got those clips, let's hear from, when we talk about Will Hernandez, here's his thoughts on his buddy Paris making the switch to the other side.
We made eye contact a couple times where we kind of just look at each other like, and then we just kind of snap back into it. But it's at the end of the day, we're all here to do what's best for the team. Nobody here is thinking about themselves or where they want to play. So we're all good with whatever the coaches want to do. And either way, I know he's going to thrive out there on the left side, and he's going to do a hell of a job. And I'm excited to see him.
Love that man.
Yeah.
He's just one of the most lovable.
Across the line.
I posted, I don't know if you saw this over the weekend. He was lifting either in his home or at somewhere, an undisclosed location. One of those big rounded bars with weight on the end, but it's like a cylinder, and he's just throwing it up like a rag doll. It was like 6 of me, and I was just with his shirt off. I mean, he is just one of the easiest players to root for on the Arizona Cardinals, and just his personality is contagious. It's that good.
Yeah, it continues too with personality and obviously a lot to like about the offensive line group. The Cardinals starting center Yelda Froholt breaking down Paris Johnson's move to left tackle.
I don't really know. It doesn't have a super effect on me. Obviously, if I go over to left guard and play a little bit there or whatever, then obviously I'm going to play with him a little bit. But all I know is that Paris is taking responsibility on to be the left tackle and kind of the guy over there on the left side, and he looks smooth. He looks natural. He's played that before, so there's nothing there from him. He's just willing to. He's at a different level too. I think for him heading into year 2 compared to rookie year, where it's like, okay, now I'm taking an extra step. He's like, I want to be even better than what I was, and he's like, I know what it is to expected of me and the game and the tempo and everything. So it's really cool to see where Paris is at, even with the little caveat of switch positions. But he's killing it.
Nobody thinks that he's going to fail at left tackle.